like everybody else, I'm always looking for that way into something that will allow me to write and make movies or television about the things that I value. And this comes at an interesting point in my career because I've had a couple movies, two $70 million movies come out in the last 4 years, and those movies were both spectacular flops, and they for any number of reasons. And on the one hand, I don't have a lot of feeling of authorship with regard to those movies, and because I was one of, in each case I was one of a long series of writers. In one case I was the first writer of 6, and in the other case I was the last writer of about 5. So you see yourself as more just like any other crew member who works on a film, like a supporting actor, a grip, a co-producer, as somebody who worked on it, did the best you could, and ultimately it didn't come together the way you hoped. But I also am at a point in my career where that kind of stuff is less attractive to me, because just working on something as essentially a job. It's sort of selling my my abilities as a filmmaker, as a screenwriter, just to a large project that needs a rewrite or needs a first draft or whatever, and looking for a way to do smaller projects, maybe smaller projects on cable TV, or smaller projects on the web, or through technology delivered by apps, so that I can actually, so that some of the stuff that I write that's more personal, or that is more reflective of what I value in storytelling, and just is a clearer reflection of the kinds of movies I actually watch and want to see. I sort of lost the structure of my sentence there, but that's what I'm moving towards. The projects that I'm working on right now, another 3-pager named Levin, our Turkish friend, and I are finishing a spec script that's much more in the vein of a independent thriller rather than a big Hollywood film. I'm also working on. I'm very interested from the point of view of a writer. I'm more and more interested in working on television, because I find that the stuff that I'm most excited about often is things that I see on non-network dramas. And I'm doing a lot of writing on my blog, although I haven't in the last week or so. Doing different types of writing is really exciting to me. Not just churning out more writing assignments for feature films, most of which don't get made. I'm having a lot of fun doing 3-pagers, doing blog articles, writing short stories, writing television, writing just doing a variety of different kinds of writing. And I'm discovering that in today's climate, specialization is not always a good idea, because whatever you specialize in might radically change very quickly. Just the way technology is changing and the entertainment industry is changing, you have no idea what the landscape is going to be like a couple years from now. So you do what you do whatever you can given your opportunities right now, but you have to stay very versatile. You have to think about things other than just, oh, I'm a feature screenwriter, so I only do these things and I only do them this way. You have to think of yourself as a writer across many different mediums, and move towards whatever opportunity presents itself, and also stay abreast of the different ways that people make movies. Doing a webathon like this and putting together money the way you're doing is not something that was possible 10 years ago. Like you couldn't have raised money for Dog Walker this way. So your approach, at least from the standpoint of a producer, has to constantly change with the technology and the opportunities. And I think it's true for all elements of filmmaking. Certainly the writing, but also the directing and the producing. You have to sort of see yourself as this very flexible, multi-purpose storyteller who exist in any number of different mediums, or can tell stories in different mediums. The only project that I have that's a directing project right now is there's a project that's already out, and you can download it on your iPhone or your iPad. It's an app called Haunting Melissa that was created and directed by a friend of mine named Neil Edelstein. And it's these things are slow to make, and he's only made one, and he's making the sequel to that project. But I'm writing a project for him in that same sort of format, where an app delivers sort of filmed media to the user every day or so in a very mysterious sort of way. I'm building a project like that, so that would live only on the iPhone or iPad. And if that project, if I get the script right, then I would also direct the project, probably somewhere in Canada, like Calgary, where I was just recently. Mm-hmm. But it's essentially the same. The process of making an independent film is all the creative parts of it are absolutely transferable to these sort of quote unquote new media things. I mean, the bells and whistles might be different. The way you deliver content to your potential viewers might be different. You might sort of break, like in this kind of project, you break things up in a slightly different way, so that the quote unquote episodes might be 15 minutes long or 3 minutes long. There might be added stuff like text and photos and blogs and other stuff from the characters that all is bundled in this app. But ultimately, all the stuff that you learn just picking up a camera and shooting a scene, telling the story in the simplest way, is transferable to all these other types of media. It's just a question of learning the quirks and the differences of telling the story in a slightly different medium. Yeah, it's mm-hmm. And developing pitches for TV, because it's that time of year where I'll be going around to producers and production companies and eventually studios and networks, and pitching TV show series ideas. And so now I'm in the process of sort of working out. So in step one of the process is working out your story idea, your series idea, and bringing that first to different, possibly pairing with a producer or a production company. And I'm sort of in that stage right now, getting notes back from some people, developing things, and then from there, the next stage from there is to go with a slightly more polished pitch, and more than likely a partnership with some producer with a track record, or a showrunner with a track record. You go into studios and pitch all the different studios, because they're the ones who are actually going to make the TV show. And if then usually, if all goes well, a studio is on board and they make a deal with you. Like, you're not going to make any money yet, but they agree that if somebody buys this show, they will produce it and you will get a certain amount of money. You'll be the executive producer and blah, blah, blah. So now you have, a producer, you have your TV agents, and you have a studio. So then this mass of like 6 or 7 people go with you into a network or a cable channel. It could be HBO, it could be Amazon.com, it could be NBC, and then you pitch it yet again. And so by this time, you've probably pitched the thing probably 50 to 100 times, and you start pitching it to the actual buyers. And at this point, it might even have more things attached to it. There might be a director attached to it. There might be an actor attached to it. And you get all the way to that side of the process. And this process has taken probably 6 months, from the beginning to the point where you're actually taking the pitch to studios, and then you find out whether they buy into it. Now, oftentimes you get a no at that point. It's very disappointing, but you might get a studio to say, yes, we'll hire you to write the script. Now, that doesn't mean that the series is going to come out. They've only hired you to write a script, and then you write that script and get it done, usually in the fall, for around Christmas. And at that point, the HBO or the NBC or whoever you sold it to looks over their, probably maybe 50 scripts that they've had commissioned, and pick a small number of those, maybe 10. It depends obviously on the network, to actually go to pilot. So there's another culling process there, and then once and most people know, you make the pilot, and then they pick among the pilots that they have, and usually only 2 or 3 actually make it to series. And if you don't get good ratings, you could be off the air after after a couple of episodes. It's a weird process where you're constantly going sort of like into a building, to one door, and then you open that door, it leads to a room with another door, it leads to to a room with another door, and you just keep trying to go past different thresholds. But the carrot that they're hanging out is the idea that if you get the right story idea and a partnership with the right network, that you can get this wonderful long form storytelling opportunity, where you can tell a story of a character as that character grows and changes over months and years, and over 100 hours of potentially of screen time, as opposed to just 90 minutes. And that's huge. That's, I think, is for the point of view of just strictly the writer. I think that's the best job in town. That's what everybody would most like to be doing, is creating television. Well, what's interesting is that conversely, if you are a pure filmmaker, someone who really tells stories with pictures, if you're like a budding Kubrick, if you're going to make a movie the way, say, Wes Anderson makes movies, or a new movie coming out based on a Michael Faber book called Under the Skin. These are movies that are told almost entirely visually. Almost all the content of the film is something that wouldn't work as a TV show. It's a visual, or even Gravity. These are visual experiences. They have to be seen on the big screen. And I think from a director's point of view, working in television isn't all that exciting, because you just you're just like the flavor of the week. You come in, you sort of, it's a much more mechanical process where you don't have a lot of creative input. It's like being a screenwriter in feature film. But if you are a director and you really have a strictly visual sense, or a very rich visual sense, I still think movies are the way to express that. And if you have both, like Jacques Telemaque, if you can write and you can direct, if you can deliver both character and visuals, then you're set. Well, what I'd want to share with writers and filmmakers is, I encourage anyone that I teach, or anyone that I come in contact with is struggling with whatever they're working on, to look at, especially a screenplay, but also a film as you shoot it and rework it, that films are not made in a process where you have some grand inspiration and you see exactly what you want. You have this perfect vision, and then you execute it. The way real filmmakers and real storytellers, like the grunts, the people who are out there actually making films, and making lots of films, or doing TV, and getting a new hour of content out every week, or even making webisodes. The experience is more like tinkering. It's you do something, you do a first draft of something, you do the best you can, and then just like in this process, it's more like trial and error than it is some grand artistic enterprise. You just keep working it and keep trying to make it better, and you show it to people whose viewpoint you really value, and you get feedback, and you tinker some more, and you try something, and a lot of times you don't know what the right answer is, and the only way through it is to tinker with it. It happens a lot with filmmaking. You do that first cut of a movie and nothing is working, and you just have to tinker with it and say, okay, what if we cut out the scene entirely? What if we completely rearrange this? What if we use we add some voiceover here? You just keep tinkering with the film until it works. And a lot of that process is driven by certainly a sense of what's, whether it's working or whether it's not working. And that, in that sense, you do have to trust your own instincts, and you have to trust in your collaborators who can help you try different things. But you have to be willing to just, I don't know, try shit out. Throw it out on the page. That's one of the reasons that the 3-pager is so much fun. You just throw something down, and then a couple days later you get feedback on it, and that way, and so just creatively you can get in that cycle of trial and error and trial and error. Oops, that didn't work. Let me try it differently. Oh, that did work. And so that's what I try to reinforce. I think everyone could get better. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, you've a little fear of failure. A little bit of anxiety to make you focus on what you're doing and trying to get it right is good, but you have to be willing to fail and fail better and fail again, and then before you get to the before it gets good. Screenplays don't look like the screenplays they publish, which are essentially just transcripts of the actual film. No first draft, second draft, or third draft ever looked anything like that. Early drafts of The Godfather did not look like late drafts of The Godfather. Early drafts of any classic movie. That's my spiel.